Good evening, everybody. First, I would like to thank organizing committee for this opportunity, and this is the title of my presentation. These are my conflict of interest in the last 3 years, and this is a brief outline of my presentation. First, I will introduce ultra-processed food and agrobiodiversity. Then I will move to globalized diet versus sustainable and healthy diets, introducing Mediterranean diet as a case study. And finally, I will arrive to conclusion. Well, food processing has benefits, such as the increase of shelf life, but also negative effects, such as high levels of sugar, fat, and salt. These are typical ultra-processed foods, rich in simple sugar and refined sugars, saturated fats and salt, to the detriment of macro and micronutrients, such as vitamins and minerals. This is the NOVA system of food classification based on the nature, extent, and purpose of food processing. And as you can see, Western countries are huge consumers of ultra-processed food, in particular United States, UK, and Canada. And in particular, in United States, ultra-processed foods account for about 60% of the daily energy intake. These are three key points: diet rich in saturated fat, refined sugars, and salt are modifiable risk factors associated with non-communicable disease, such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. And in general, ultra-processed foods are energy-dense, high-calorie foods that can lead to overweight and obesity. This is the Nutrient Nets on Tape Prospective Core study, is a large study initiated beginning in 2009 with over 160,000 participants and a follow-up of over 10 years. And these are some published results. A 10% increase of ultra-processed foods in the diet has been associated with a 12% increase in overall cancer risk. This is very important. Furthermore, ultra-processed foods have a relevant environmental impact in terms of ecological, carbon, and water footprint due to greenhouse gas emission, water and land consumption, use of agrochemicals, and accumulation of waste. This is a food system from farm to fork, where all stages of food production impact on the environment. And this is the environmental impact of food systems in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, responsible of global warming and climate change, water consumption, soil degradation, deforestation, and so on. These are the environmental impacts of food production in terms of greenhouse gas emission, and so as you can see, about 26% of greenhouse gas emission come from agriculture. 50% of the habitable land is used for agriculture, and 70% of fresh water are used for agriculture. These are very important numbers. And as you know, the production of animal-based foods emits more greenhouse gases than plant-based foods, from beef to plant-based products. And these are the food groups based on the kilograms of carbon dioxide emitted, low levels of emission for plant foods, and high levels for animal foods. And similarly, the virtual water content is higher in beef than in tomatoes, as you know. And these are the liters of water per kilogram of food from vegetables to meat. So I introduce agrobiodiversity. It is also named agricultural biodiversity. So agrobiodiversity is the subset of biodiversity that contributes to food production. It's a key factor in food security and sustainable food production. It includes not only the domesticated plants and animals, but also wild species used for food. These are origin and diversity, and these are origin of diversity and the primary regions of agricultural crops. And these are some examples of agrobiodiversity, as you can see in the slides. And this is a very interesting report. There are an estimated, in this report, you can read that there are an estimated 250, 300,000 species of edible plants in the world, but only 150 to 100 species are used as food. And of these, only 12 species provide about 75% of the world's food, in particular wheat, rice, and corn. This is very interesting. These data are in agreement with the world checklist of useful plants species by the Kew Royal Botanic Gardens, and published results by the same authors. And in particular, the checklist contains more than 40,000 species, of which only 7,000 are edible, in striking contrast to the small handful of food crops that provide the majority of humanity's calorie and nutrient intake. Risks associated with low levels of agrobiodiversity include mainly malnutrition, poverty, pest and plant disease due to invasive alien species. So we must protect the local agrobiodiversity and wild foods, key factors in food security. The main threats to wild food species include overexploitation, habitat alteration and loss, pollution, deforestation, climate change, invasive alien species, and so on. So now I introduce globalized diet. Globalized diet is characterized by branded ultra-processed foods derived from few plant species such as sugarcane, corn, wheat, soybean, and oilseed crops, as well as animal products derived from confined animals fed on the same crops. These are ultra-processed food versus local, healthy, unprocessed or minimally processed foods, and these are the globalized diet pyramid versus the Mediterranean diet pyramid. So these are the dietary changes towards sustainable and healthy diets, in short, from plant to animal foods. This is a shift, and this is the definition of sustainable diets according to Food and Agriculture Organization, diets with low environmental impacts which contribute to food security for future generations, respectful of biodiversity and ecosystem, and economically affordable. And these are the main traits of sustainable diets. And these are the main traits of Mediterranean diet, with very similar characteristics as you can read. Therefore, Mediterranean diet can be considered a model of sustainable and healthy diet rich in local, seasonal, plant and non-ultra-processed foods. Indeed, it has been shown that Mediterranean diet had a lower environmental impact than Western diets in terms of carbon, water, and ecological footprint. And similarly, the Mediterranean diet has been shown to be healthy due to its phytochemical diversity. In fact, Mediterranean foods are rich in bioactive phytochemicals and nutraceuticals. And in summary, in conclusion, these are the conclusions that you can read, but in summary, sustainability and healthiness are typical traits of diet mainly based on local and seasonal plant foods. This diet will reduce food insecurity and improve local economies with health promoting effects. On the other hand, a globalized diet rich in ultra-processed foods and ready-to-eat meals has a negative impact on the diversity of plant species available for human consumption. It has agrobiodiversity, harming human and planetary health. Many thanks for the kind attention.